It seems that several thousand of you have an opinion about men's fiction and the lack thereof. It also seems like some of you comment on a video without actually watching even 20 seconds of it. We're going to talk about you later. But most startlingly, despite the fact that I made a whole video detailing the issue of men being able to find commercial fiction that is designed for them, somehow I got a lot of comments of people saying, yeah, that's not a deal. No, men dominate all forms of literature. Men dominate the literature industry, as a matter of fact. Everything is about men all the time. This isn't a problem. But even if it is, you should shut up about it. The freakish rise of grown adult men loudly complaining every time they don't like something, instead of just liking or not liking a work, might be the issue. No, I'm pretty sure I said what the issue was. There were some interesting trends that went on in the comments section of my previous video about the lack of male commercial fiction. However, there were some trends, and I'm going to talk about a few of them in this video, just so we can kind of take the temperature of at least the YouTube-itariat. Is that a word? It is now. And what people actually think, both the men who agreed with me and the men and women who did not. There was one comment, however, that was so, I don't want to say egregious, but it got my attention. So we're going to be going through that comment line by line and explaining why this person is either disingenuous or a blithering idiot. I'm actually going to go with option A there. Come along with me. Come along for the mean tweets. Hello, shameless writers. I'm Kristen McTiernan, the nonsense-free editor and apparently the savior of men. Or pick me, depending on who you ask. For those of you just joining me from the last video, and there were about 2,000 of you, oh my god, I'm so happy to have you. In addition to being a YouTuber, I am also an editor, ghostwriter, and indie publication assistant, meaning that I help guide independent authors through their publishing process up to launch day. After launch, you're going to have to hire a marketer, but everything up to launch day, I am right there with you. So I have kind of a unique perspective on what people are publishing, what people are reading, and for those few authors who are seeking trad representation who come to me, I get to see what happens to them when they query too. And from the comments section, it looks like a lot of you have seen the same thing. 95% of fantasy in my country is both authored by females and has a female MC, and almost all of that is romantasy. About 0% of male readers are interested in that. Fair enough, and that is the trend that I noticed and called out in the video. Even though we were talking about commercial contemporary fiction, a lot of my readers and viewers, based on what the comments say, are all about military sci-fi, manga, and sword and sorcery fantasy, which kind of skews towards those genres that are still kind of courting the male readership. When I was querying, a good chunk of the agents said that if you're a straight cis male, to not even bother submitting your work because they would just throw it away. This was close to a decade ago, and it didn't start the day I started doing query research. A response to that comment was, I remember the last time I showed my story to an editor. Because my two male characters had a heart-to-heart talk about a past traumatic event, the editor asked me why it didn't turn into a gay sex scene. What the fuck? What the fuck indeed? The demonization of specifically heterosexual males and the dismissal of their friendships without trying to turn it into at least a bisexual romance is a big part of why men are alienated by supposed men's fiction. And this isn't just for writers, this is for just regular readers. What I'm mostly sad about is that I used to love going in a bookstore and browsing books. Now there's no point. For the last 4 years, there's nothing. It's literally 2 shelves of Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones, and Wheel of Time, and some Brandon Sanderson books. That's all. Everything else is literally whole walls of bookshelves filled with all sorts of smut and romantasy. And so now, when I walk by a bookstore, I just think to myself, what's the point? There's nothing there for me. This seems to be a clearly established trend, something that you've seen all over social media, not just in the comments of my paltry little video. It's all over TikTok. Men walking through the bookstore, just like this gentleman, with their phones saying, this is supposed to be the fantasy section. Why do I only see crowns, roses, and swords? None of this is for me. None of it is even gender neutral. It's all females. I go into the literature section, and a lot of the classics have had their covers redone, so it looks exactly the same as the covers of a romantic comedy over there in that other section, like a bright pink cover or something. What are you doing, TradPub? Of course, it would not be the internet if there wasn't a litany of human beings here to tell me that I am full of shit. In my 46 years of life, I've never seen a book for men, scare quotes. I read a book about sexuality aimed to teenagers once, but it was not exclusively dedicated to boys, I think. Aside from that, sci-fi, fantasy, technical or academic stuff, history, graphic novels, hobby manuals, etc. I can't remember any of them being explicitly targeting men and men only. The only ones I can think would be porn magazines and hentai, and maybe a few power fantasy-focused, very childish light novels, clearly aimed at 14-year-old kids. I don't think I need it, though. Why would I want a book to force itself into themes or tropes relevant only to male readers? I think stories work better and go deeper when they use unique characters to touch universal themes. You are my age, sir, so I know you're full of shit. There used to be a whole line of fiction for men. You will find many of them called out in the comment section specifying that, well, in the early 2000s, we had Nick Hornby, which actually was commercial contemporary, a genre that has all but evaporated for men, as per the point of my last video. I know when you were a boy, they had books especially for you as a young boy. I know when you were a teenager, they had books especially for you, growing boy into man. And I know when you were a young man, there was a bunch of fiction for you, whether that was spy novels or sword and sorcery fantasy or contemporary. It did exist when you were coming into adulthood because you did that at the same time that I did. Liar. Huge liar. I'm happy to say that these comments did not go unchallenged in the comments section. As this person says, that's like calling T-Swift and death metal just music. Yeah, okay, but very different, and one appeals far more to women than the other. And that is the important thing to talk about. There is a trend human-wide. This is not just something men do. It's not something old people do. It's everyone. Where you hear a generalized statement and you say, well, I specifically am not like that. You're wrong. And of course, I have done this myself too, not realizing how annoying it was until I grew to the point where people started doing it to me. And I'm like, wow, that is annoying. And I actually had to send a apology to a couple of influencers.
All right, I apologize.
You're really sorry?
I'm really, really sorry. I apologize unreservedly.
You take it back?
I do. I offer a complete and utter retraction.
The thing about genres, and this is going to be a big part of this video, they're categories for sale. The purpose of placing your book, your perfect work of art that defies genres and is different from everything else that has been published. No publisher wants to hear that. They want to hear a specific category that they can place it in so they know exactly who to sell that book to. The category that they place it in also dictates, or it's supposed to dictate, the decisions that they make on the cover, the blurb, and whatever else they put on the exterior sales copy. I particularly love this comment that somebody left. As a man who loves non-contemporary fiction, I kind of feel clickbaited by the title because there is a lot of fiction books written for men. Like, I'm not mad at this guy. But I want to make the comparison between a book cover and a YouTube thumbnail. They both serve the same purpose. And yes, it is clickbait. The function of both the book cover and the YouTube thumbnail is to get you, the audience, the paying or the viewing customer, to click. That's what it's for. It's marketing. So it's to wave at you. Hi, look at this picture. You might like this. And you click on it. And if it's a book, then you read the blurb. That is also designed to kind of sort. Okay, reader, this is who this book is for. Okay, is it for you? Make the purchase. Is it not? All right, move on to the next one. Sorry about the mix-up. That's why YouTubers focus so heavily on retention time, because they need to know if their thumbnails that they're making are attracting the type of person who will watch all 20 minutes of their stupid video. Hi, it's all marketing. And if you're a reader, I'm not mad at you that you don't know this, because everything about marketing and everything about sales is designed to make it seamless. So you don't see it. When you go into Barnes and Nobles, you don't think about why the first thing you see are all like those Hillary Clinton biographies. You don't think about why it is they have like all the beautiful journals up front. Like, who is actually buying those? I mean, yeah, people do, but are they really a bestseller? No, but they're attractive. The function is to welcome you into the store and direct you to the right place that will prompt you to spend money. That's what it's all for. So as a savvy consumer, it's good for you to understand these things. And the biggest thing that you do need to understand is, unlike what this person says, I was under the impression that for the most part, fictional literature was unisex. No, it is not. Because men and women do not have the same buying patterns, and they never have, which is affirmed by this particular individual who seems to be entirely unself-aware. You exaggerate somewhat. They are just called books. Man books and woman books are simply creations of publishers' marketing. Yeah, and men are not being marketed to at all. They're being told to pound sand. That was the point. I am once again asking you to watch more than 60 seconds of the video before you comment. There were a lot of the commenters who seemed to mistake my use of contemporary literature for meaning something that has just been published recently. And again, if you're a casual reader, honestly, I don't expect you to know that contemporary fiction is its own category. I don't expect you to know that it's a sales category. All right. That's not really a thing that you as a reader need to know, especially with the algorithmic nature of book sales these days. It's okay. Like, I'm not mad at you. I am, however, mad at the certain disingenuous individual who left a rather lengthy comment challenging the very premise of my video. This person, I believe, watched in its entirety. I believe this person understood what I was saying and was so shooketh by my factual inaccuracy that he came into my comments and dropped knowledge on me. He dropped a litany of book titles, 25, 27, probably more. Book titles that showed, hey, Chudette, you pick me. There are so many contemporary men's novels. You are a liar, and I'm going to list them all for you because I, the erudite, well-read member of your video audience, am here to school you. Have I made a mistake? Good heavens. I would be so terribly embarrassed if it turns out that there is just a whole slew of commercial contemporary fiction out there targeted and written by men. Now, before I get into this comment, I do want to specify, for those of you who don't know, the two big umbrella terms for fiction are literary fiction and commercial fiction. So the contemporary fiction that I was talking about is under the commercial category. This is your regular genre fiction. So whether you're into the slutty romances, whether you're into the sword and sorcery, sci-fi, contemporary, that's all under commercial. I work with commercial authors almost entirely because literary is very much its own audience. That's the upmarket book. That is the one that you find on Oprah's book list, okay? That's the one that's not so much about people and about the plot. It's about ideas. And I will say that those books are more gender neutral because, again, they're not about the people or about an individual experience. They're about ideas. And the writing is much more deliberate. Every sentence is agonized over because the beauty of the sentence is part of the experience of reading literary fiction. Like I said, it's very much its own market, and it is entirely different from commercial fiction. The guy who left this comment, I strongly suspect, is of the literary bent. Let's go through what he said. Contemporary books about men published in the last 10-ish. Then he lists an enormous list of books. We'll go through them one by one. Honestly, if people aren't finding books to read about men, then it's because they don't want to. All you have to do is look at over 50% of every Booker and Pulitzer long list from the past 10 years. Done. You're welcome. First of all, commercial readers don't care about Booker and Pulitzer any more than they care about the Oscars, because the governing bodies of those awards have made it very clear what they think of us, the paying public. And I wonder if it's ever occurred to any of you little shits that the feeling is mutual. We don't care. You go ahead and slap Oprah's book club on there. You go ahead and slap the gold. Oh, this is a Newbery honor. We don't care. None of this is commercial fiction. None of them. Real Life by Brandon Taylor, categorized as LGBT literary fiction, Black African American literature, and literary fiction. Interior Chinatown by Charles Yu, categorized as Asian American literature, cultural heritage literature, and literary fiction. Less by Andrew Sean Greer, categorized as humorous fiction, satire, and literary fiction. It is about a gay failed novelist. The Sellout by Paul Beatty, categorized as alternate history, satire, and literary fiction. The theme of this particular literary fiction is racial equity. Open Water by Caleb Azuma Nelson, categorized as urban life fiction and literary fiction. You can tell by the cover what it's actually about. A love song to black art and thought. Swimming in the Dark by a Polish person. LGBT literary fiction, coming of age and literary fiction. Martyr by Kava Akbar. LGBT literature, family life, and literary fiction. If you couldn't guess by the title, it's very much about Arab identity. And apparently, according to the commenter, everyone and their mother is talking about this book.
Everyone where? The little gay bar on the prairie?
Then we have Prophet Song by Paul Lynch. So the author is a man, and it is categorized as political fiction, dystopian fiction, and literary fiction. However, based on the pronouns in this description, it appears to be about a woman doing woman things in the middle of a dystopia, like the Hunger Games, only in Ireland and upscale. That was about half the list. Half the list of these books, supposedly men's literature, are targeted either at the LGBT community, which is 4% of the population. They're a niche. That's why they have their own category. Or a specific ethnicity, which narrows it down even further. Gay and this particular race? Yeah, okay. And it's not just because the main characters are of those ethnicities or of that category of sexuality. It's because that is what the book is about. The book is about being gay and coming of age. The book is about being an ethnic minority. It's not just like Alex Cross, who's just doing a detective story and he happens to be black. Yes, it affects his life sometimes because it is part of his whole experience, but none of his books are about blackness or finding your way as a black man in these United States. None of them, which is why they have broad commercial appeal. Like I said, casual readers wouldn't know the difference between this. I don't believe this commenter is a casual reader. Based on his tone and the fact that he rattled off all of these titles, I don't think he got these from ChatGPT. I think these are books that he has read and that his community talks about. I believe him. He's probably gay and he lives in a liberal enclave. Maybe he's Ivy League educated. I'm not sure. But he's made his sneering disdain of the great unwashed, those of us who read commercial fiction, very clear. Now, I don't want to be disingenuous, as there were some promising entries into this list. Again, these are all literary fiction. He was very general in some of them. For instance, he did say every book by Murakami, including his most recently published in 2024. Like, I'm not going to sit there and go through an entire author's backlist. So there are a lot of books on here that I didn't look at because he didn't call them out by name. But for the ones that he did call out by name, I've just told you what half of them looked like. The other half, again, literary, but promising and could very well be appealing to the average male audience who is interested in literary fiction. Demon Copperhead in particular seemed of interest to me. Though written by a woman, it is specifically about a man living a man's hardscrabble, small-town rural life, something that I very much like reading about since I am from the Midwest and the South. And finally, All That Is Man, to me, looks like unambiguously a man's story. Several men, in fact. So he wasn't completely out of his gourd. But I think it is telling that half of this list, that is men's fiction, a full half, is really only appealing to 4% of the population. And the thing about marketing is, it's not about how things should be. So I got into a bit of a Twitter spat with this little idiot who was like, what, you don't have empathy for gay people? Are you a homophobe? Sir, you don't know my life. And the thing that just came out of your mouth made that very clear. If you want to sell, whether it's a book or whether it's an e-course or whether it's a little stupid tchotchke, I don't know. You don't get to sell something and say, hey, you should want this. And if you don't want this, you're a bad person. That might work on a very niche category of human being, but it doesn't work on a large scale. You have to actually offer people what they really want. The general commercial fiction reading population of men has very loudly and in a unified voice told traditional publishers, we don't like what you're selling at all, to the point where the comments were full of men who say, you know what, I only get books from library sales now. That's the only way that I can find old stuff that I like. And of course, it's on sale, so that adds to the appeal of it. They have been driven from the commercial market entirely. And you can make as many videos and podcasts as you want, wagging your finger at them saying, hey, this video about sucking dick should appeal to you. You can do that all you want, but they're not gonna. You know what they're going to do? They're going to go to the library sale and they're going to buy that Clancy book from 1986 that's on sale for $4.99. But in this age of one-tap buying, people are going to buy what they want. The question is, are you going to offer it to them? And if not, fine, fair enough. But don't cry when they don't buy the product that you specifically made to alienate them. It's all about finding the right audience. And as we have found out in the last 10 and 15 years, you can't actually nag an audience into wanting what you have. You have to give them what they want. That's just the way capitalism works, and that's just fine with me. So that's all I have for this week. Until next week, or maybe the week after, we'll see. Take care, and write well.
Can I go now, sir? Wait, your bigger stickers? Here's of this.